Hi everyone, welcome back, Laure here, and I'm with the latest addition to the Unicorns of Love, Neon. First week in the LCS, congratulations, you must feel pretty proud about yourself right now.
Thank you. I kind of do, honestly, because it's my first time on the stage, obviously, and I expected myself to be really shaky and kind of choke, which has been previously my case in offline events, that I felt really uncomfortable on the stage, but somehow the LCS stage is like all super well done. Like everything is already set up for you, and everyone's there to assist you with everything. That I felt really comfortable, and I kind of got surprised how good it feels to play here on the stage.
Perfect. When I met you for the first time, it was in Paris. You were at Millennium back then. So how different is it for you living in Berlin, in a gaming house? How are you doing?
Well, I can say it's a whole new experience for me because this is my first gaming house experience ever. I have not been in a gaming house with Millennium, and it just feels awesome to wake up every day and do what you like. Yeah, the team feels really good to be with the boys, and I'm just trying to do my best every day, and you know.
Perfect. Glad to hear that. So how does it feel going on stage for the first time? I mean, you were in the EU Masters, right? But now coming on stage, playing your first game, especially winning your first game on your first week?
Well, obviously it's like the best feeling in the world to win a game. Obviously we lost yesterday, and I didn't feel much grief. I was encouraged to do my best today and win, which we luckily did, and it just feels awesome to win.
Well, I'm
There's no words.
glad to hear that, and wish you good luck for the rest. And now for more action on that, we're going to hear about Sjokz, Deficio and Kold on the desk.
Whoa. Merci beaucoup, Laure. We are indeed joined by the Unicorns of Love's Kold to introduce this next game. Congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
Nice win. What's it like for you? Of course, it was unfortunate that you had to sub in Neon due to these circumstances, but he's been adjusting fine.
I mean, it was definitely not planned that Neon should play this week. So a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, it's not optimal. But the thing that matters is that our fundamentals work, and that's why we can just plug him in and play. So I felt like it was pretty normal, and I'm pretty proud of him. I know he was pretty nervous going into this week. We didn't have too much practice with him either, so generally just proud of him, and I think it's good to have that safety for us in Samuk's situation.
What we talked about before was that it's you, Totoro, and Exile together as a trio. Those are probably also the basics that you're talking about. Yeah. Not to leave out White Knight, but this is what you need in this meta, and this is what you guys are controlling really well right now.
Yeah, internally, I call Totoro my bang bro, because we're just running around the map and doing some fun stuff. So we're the bang bros, and
I love how you said it, and then you said it again. Anyway, player of the game, just a bro. Exile, 62% of the votes. Exile has been having sneakily a really good split.
Let's enjoy this play for the 10th time already.
You see that insane bait by the Kindred?
The Kindred baits everything, so he lands the bubble, jumps in, and the flash as well. It's not just using ult. And then you get a double kill on that Q. Some people will say Zoe's
unbalanced,
disgusting, whatever.
Slightly OP.
That play looked really good. It's very fun to play Zoe, less fun to play against her.
Yeah, I mean, when you see those kind of Zoe plays, you know that it's insanely skilled play and so much mechanical skill.
Well, no matter how you did it, you did it.
It was a great play.
Still very much in the race for playoffs, so we'll be tracking that journey, as to say. And as we look at the teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, Schalke and Splyce are on stage right now, and it's going to be a very interesting game because on both sides there's a lot on the line. First up, Splyce yesterday, they won versus Fnatic, and they have the possibility of going 4-0. Who would have thought that after a 0-4 start?
Not me, that's for sure. Also after 0-3 at Rift Rivals in groups, you know, it felt like Splyce was still having a lot of issues, but after the TL win, and then honestly, they stomped Fnatic yesterday.
Kold, are you surprised by that?
Quite surprised, yeah. I think what Splyce were doing really well yesterday was that they actually picked lanes that had priority with, for example, the Rumble that had priority into the Java. And then they were just playing over this all the time, and the Kimmel was just camping top, and they kept snowballing over Fnatic being too aggressive. I know they love to say that we can take any fight and we're not afraid of making plays, but that really backfired yesterday, and I think that was the reason why Splyce came out ahead.
And also, we had Nisqy, who did well from the start, so that was like the consistent thing. Odoamne was lacking behind with Xerxe originally. they play around Odoamne again. This is what they did in the spring split when they found early game success. It's no longer the 0% jungle proximity top lane.
No.
This game, Xerxe was up there, level 3, level 4, level 5, and Whippo got completely shut down. So they found a way to win the early game. It's not through bot lane, it's top side.
And contrary to what happened in the spring split, they were slow starters there, but now they seem to have turned it around. And if they are able to close this weekend out with a 4-0 in the last 2 weeks in the EU LCS, that is a humongous step towards the playoffs and higher. But to do that, they would have to beat Schalke 04. Now, Schalke has been up and down the entire split. Honestly, the entire year, they did manage to beat Giants just yesterday in a funnel comp where Nukeduck was playing Xayah and was extremely fed. So good on them that they won that game.
Yeah, definitely. I think they showed that they know how to execute the composition with the draft, where they draft around it, with the like Morgana, bot lane, this kind of stuff. Funnily enough, I ran into Upset after the game. He was like, I was so sad I didn't get to play the funnel.
Oh yeah,
Because
no, he never gets that one. That's Nukeduck.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that they found some kind of playstyle that worked for them. Because they didn't really work for them playing the standard way. Like we saw, for example, against the G2 where they just got completely destroyed. So I'm happy that they try something different. But we'll see what they do today. I hope they have other stuff prepared. Because if you have other stuff prepared with the funnel, then you have a lot of potential in the draft phase.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance they just go back to the funnel. The bot lane has not really been a key thing for them in the past. Vizicsacsi as well is mainly on tanks, so they kind of need Nukeduck to carry the games. And if they can't get a 3-0 Xayah, you should win every game. So I was a little bit sad they lost a couple of team fights, but in the end, they got the win.
Yeah, and it's Nisqy versus Nukeduck right now. Nisqy is on fire. He has had a fantastic split so far. Nukeduck is the focal point yesterday. Do you think Schalke should just play around Nukeduck for now every game? Should that be the go-to strategy?
I mean, it's a good strat if you pick funnel.
It definitely works then.
I'm not 100% sure. I think Splyce has, especially Nisqy, has been playing well this split so far. He's kind of the rock for the team. It's kind of weird to say that after what happened in the spring split. But so I personally don't think it's going to be the mid lane that's going to determine. It's more on the side lanes who is actually going to get ahead, because I don't think the Splyce bot lane, unless they get on Heimer, has a lot of priority in the early stages of the game. And I don't see that from the Schalke either. So I think, honestly, for me, it has a lot to do with how the draft is going to be from the bottom side. Who has more stuff prepared that can actually win the game, instead of picking, like, for example, yesterday they picked S04 into Heimer.
Yeah.
I think that is just saying that you're giving up the lane and hope top side is going to carry, for example.
And in this
we did
case,
the same, so.
That's true. A lot of teams will do it. Sadly, it's also very hard to put on a graphic that it depends on the bot lane picks. The mid lane matchup is a little bit more exciting in terms of the big names. And because of the funnel comp, you have to talk about Nukeduck, and we've already done that a lot. I think Nisqy, the fact that if Zoe is left open and he will grab it, he's actually carried almost every game he got to play it. So it is one of the key picks you got to remove.
And finally, junglers, Xerxe versus Amazing, incredibly instrumental to their team's play. Amazing was supposed to bring that big change for Schalke. We haven't seen that necessarily. And Xerxe has been having a better couple of weeks, I would say, even though he kind of dropped the ball yesterday around the Baron. It wasn't really his fault.
That's one small thing.
That wasn't
He
his
was
fault.
playing really well yesterday,
Yeah.
and he also played pretty well around in Rift Rivals. So I think the jungle matchup is in favor of Splyce. I think Amazing has been trying too much sometimes. Like, he tries to go for the big outplay in the early game, and then he loses too much for the team. And maybe sometimes just taking a step back and actually playing just over what you know is going to work, instead of trying to make the hero play. Maybe that's why they put him on Braum. I'm not sure. You know, like, we can always we don't know.
He's in a weird spot though, because he got picked up because he was supposed to say, let's do something. Let's not just sit back like in Spring Split where Schalke was very passive. So I don't know if he feels like he has to be the playmaker.
But I think that's just the wrong mindset. Like, you want to do something early game, but you want to make sure that it's not just like a coin flip play, you know. You rush into a gank, and if the enemy outplay you, you're gonna die, and then maybe at 15 you FF, you know. Like, you don't really want to do that. You can actually, he has the experience to set up plays properly and using his teammates to do this, and I think that's why they picked him up, not to make 50-50 coin flip plays.
Flashy plays.
Hopefully not.
We'll see. Very important game, or a 4-0 for Splyce, or a 2-0 weekend for Schalke 04. Who are you calling it for, Kold?
I think Splyce is gonna win.
I think a lot of us actually picked Splyce, which is a little bit crazy considering how bad they were before. But now, without even playing the last few games, they look like the stronger team.
All right, let's see if they can do it. Some explosive matchups ahead of us in Splyce for Schalke. Let's leave it to our casters and hit the rift.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. And I think the analysts were forgetting something here, Ender, because yesterday was the Friday of the Duck, man. What's today going to be?
I think it's the Saturduck. Yeah. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. You've been hanging out with Freak too much.
Maybe a little bit too much.
Okay, let's get into the actual pregame analysis here, because I think, like, obviously it's a very good point that Splyce are now kind of much more explosive than we saw out of them. They got off to another slow start to the split, but this is the same thing that happened in the spring split. And as we get into picks and bans, you might notice that Splyce have themselves a cheering section.
Oh my. Oh my, we need to see that on the camera. Well, you can sort of see it over on the right side.
All right, for those of you guys that are thoroughly perplexed, by the way, before we actually get into the ban phase.
Oh no.
Dracos lost himself a bet on the Euphoria podcast, and as a result, he is now Splyce's cheerleader.
Dracos, you're beautiful.
Do you know where you can find the Euphoria podcast, Ender?
Ooh, YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into game, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, so we got a Heimerdinger ban and a Zoe ban, and as they pointed out on the desk, Zoe makes a lot of sense to be banned against anyone, but especially against Nisqy. The Nocturne follows through as well, and Splyce are banning out some funnel champs.
But they need to ban Aatrox, but I also want to see them ban Camille, because that's been Amazing's go-to champion out of the jungle.
Well, you only get one man.
But you have to ban Aatrox, so you have to leave Camille open. I think, unless they have something crazy planned.
We'll
but I don't have much faith in the crazy.
I don't know, 5 seconds. They have to decide very quickly. It's It's neither. Ender, is it happening? We got an Aatrox!
It happened. I actually didn't think it was possible. I thought it was 100% every single game a red side ban. That means Splyce did this intentionally. They have some sort of idea of what they want to play against. I think the champion I've heard floating around most has been the Fiora, something with a little bit of mobility, sustain in the side lane that can beat it out. But you're gonna have to put resources into Odoamne if you want to try and take this champion down.
All right, so Splyce react by locking themselves in a Rakan and a Swain. That could and most likely will be the bottom lane. Now Schalke have answered by adding in an Alistar. Or VandeR. I mean, this could, you in theory, I mean, can you funnel an Aatrox? Is that what they? I don't think that's the strategy, but
I don't think
I saw the Alistar.
I mean, after seeing Rift Rivals and watching Aatrox just destroy every single NA top laner, this has to go into the top lane. It is so strong in the lane. The range you get with the Q, the ability to revive, get back up, run around is so powerful and cannot be underestimated.
Okay, so we do see some more standard things. For Amazing side, he picks himself up the Sejuani. Now, this is a champion that has been a favorite of his for some time. Splyce add in a Rumble.
Rumble in the top lane against the Aatrox. I think we actually did see this once or twice over at Rift Rivals, played specifically into the champion. The idea here, I think that Splyce is going to be going for, is hard shove in the top lane. With the Rumble, you should be able to get some sort of control over the minion waves. The issue is that if any sort of fights break out, it's so scary to have an Aatrox go in there, having a Sejuani besides it, as well as a very potent jungler to be able to focus around and build Vizicsacsi a big advantage.
Okay, so clearly there will be a lot of focus from both teams on the Vizicsacsi side, but let's talk a little bit more about just team comps in general, what we're looking to see here. With Odoamne on the Rumble, now that is an old favorite of his. He, of course, brought it back yesterday against Fnatic to great success. There seems to be a lot of AP on the Splyce side, though. What are you looking to see out of them in addition to the 3 champs you've seen so far?
Well, assuming it's Swain in the mid lane, then we need some sort of attack damage threat from either the bottom lane or even Xerxe if you wanted to go for the Camille. We have seen that played into the Sejuani, or even something along the lines of the Kindred would actually be a very strong champion, I feel like, for Xerxe if he wants to have a little bit more ability to carry himself and deal out the damage. The other thing I want to bring up here, because I see Nukeduck with the smite, is there's a possibility of mid-lane Aatrox. We've seen this actually in some eastern regions, the LPL, I know for sure, with the smite. And you can use that, take Hunter's Talisman, get level 2, just dominate the mid lane, but Schalke are going to have to decide in this next rotation what exactly they're going to be doing there.
Well, they do lock the Vladimir in, but that's something we've been seeing in the bottom lane as well. And the Mundo gets locked in, so it is going to be a mid lane Aatrox for Nukeduck. It is Saturn Duck. I can't make myself
just don't do it. Just let that one fly.
All right. But enough about that. It's mid lane Aatrox. We'll see it. What's going to be the answer? Is this going to be versus the Swain, or do they take something else for Nisqy?
This is very much the Goon Squad comp over from Schalke. All these melee champions looking for the team fights, but our eyes are stuck on towards that matchup, and that means it will be Swain against Aatrox in the middle lane. 2 of our most recent reworks clashing against each other in a sustained battle, but
does the loser get reworked again?
I think so. That's what we're deciding with this matchup here, Pyra.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad we've settled that already, and the Balance team is shaking their heads in disgust. But for Splyce's side, it seems like their team fight is also going to be pretty terrifying. There will be some solid mid-game play if Splyce are not too far behind in the landing phase to make it happen.
Yeah, it's really interesting because these fights are surely going to last such a ridiculously long time because both sides have tools to stall out. For Schalke, it's the Aatrox, the Revive passive, they have the Vladimir too with the Sustain, and over on the side of Splyce, they've got Kindred ultimate, they've got Swain, similar idea there. That these fights are going to drag on for a very, very long time and come down to all the tiny little mechanical plays where if you can burst someone out, you get a massive advantage.
The crowd is certainly pumped up for this one. It's going to be a very tough matchup for both teams. Remember, it's very important to try and pick up that win. Everybody wants to win the games, but you're sitting currently at 3 and 4 apiece. You round this one out with a victory and you find yourself 4 and 4. You're still in a very competitive playoff position. For Schalke, going all in on this mid lane Aatrox and Nukeduck, who was the hero of the last game, the subject of the funnel. For Splyce's side, more traditional team fighting. I do like it, but we'll have to see how it all happens when they leave it all on the Rift.
It definitely will. Splyce wanting to continue with this momentum they gained back in week 3, the victory against Team Liquid at Rift Rivals, and the domination of Fnatic in their game versus them yesterday. This is a revived Splyce roster, all off the backs of Nisqy and Xerxe, moving forward and trying to reclaim their spot, battling for the top of Europe.
Okie dokie, we are on to Summoner's Rift for Schalke 04 versus Splyce. Splyce, of course, yeah, coming back heroes from Rift Rivals. They had gone 2-0 the week before, so if you kind of take things all together, they've strung themselves 3 victories here after a very rough start to the split, turning things in their favor. And a lot of it has been between their mid laner, the jungler, and also scrolled on up to the top because Odoamne's had some good plays himself.
Yeah, Xerxe has definitely done a good job of playing around him, but want to hone in on this Aatrox pick in the mid lane because you look at it and you're like, what the heck is going on right there? He's got Smite, he started with Hunter's Talisman, he will be starting on the Raptor camp. This is something we've seen on a few different champions, namely the Talon. With Smite, we also saw Jizuke play the Echo and do it yesterday. The general idea is you take Smite, you take the Talisman, so you take Raptors at level 1. That will give you the level 2, and you can use that to get lane control over the middle lane and continue to absorb some resources from your jungler.
And starting things off, we'll be there uninterrupted for now, but you do see Nisqy waiting in the wings. Let's see if he decides to go in. He will be spotted on that ward. Trying to get the interrupt off. Instead, though, it's just going to be him spotting things out. And there's that Darkened Blade combo, level 1. Nisqy trying to steal away, give a little bit of harassment there. Smite comes down. That's level 2 versus level 1, though.
And Nisqy got absolutely nothing for that, and Nukeduck put a point in the E, so he's going to get a ton of damage.
Jeez. Oh, jeez. Is this going to be first? No, it's so close, but Nisqy gets absolutely shut down by a level 2 Aatrox.
It's Saturday of the Duck. Oh man, and Nisqy, he's lucky he has teleport because he's going to come back into lane and be okay, but now you have to assume, you have to assume that Amazing's going to be playing around him. Nukeduck has already hit level 3 at 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the game. That is disgusting to go against, and you see he walks straight into the enemy jungle. He can now counter away camps from Xerxe and continue to build on this advantage.
Yeah, I don't know if Nisqy's going to be honestly okay. After that, I would need like a cup of cocoa. But let's talk about what this Aatrox, what this big rework can do. We've seen it at Rift Rivals, we've seen it in other regions, but let's talk about the Aatrox rework.
Well, he used to use that right-click button a lot. Now he doesn't. It's all about the Q. And really what that means here is one of the... So I'm going to go step back from this a little bit. We've seen Aatrox in the top lane, in the mid lane, but also with the rework, it was important that this champion could still jungle. And that meant that a ton of damage had to be loaded onto his Q so that he could actually clear camps. That means that him against Raptor Camp, he just actually destroys it because he has no other spells that realistically deal good damage in the jungle. So he can, put his hand in both places. He can take some of the jungle camps with relative ease and also clear those minions in the mid lane.
Not to mention Amazing playing a champion that really just needs to be able to get in, get the engages going. Doesn't need to have a ton of damage. So very good combination from Schalke 04 here. You take a look at what's happening on the rest of the map at the moment, despite the mid lane almost fiasco, I wanted to say. Vizicsacsi's finding himself really hard pushed in by Odoamne's Rumble. Makes a lot of sense. Mundo, one of those exploitable champions in the early stages of the game before he has access to his ultimate.
Right now, my eyes are on Xerxe because he's actually traveling through this top lane at the moment, likely just giving some security for Odoamne to continue shoving this on board because it can be relatively risky to try and dive in the early game before level 6 on the Kindred, before you have access to that Lamb's Respite.
Meanwhile, down on the bottom side of the map, things relatively even. Although Upset does find himself down in farm versus the Lovers bot lane. Now Xerxe, he's wrapped around. See if they feel keen enough to dive. Vizicsacsi only on half his health. He does chug a potion.
Chachi feels like he's low enough that they can potentially look for a dive, but there's still a large minion wave they're going to have to clear away on the side of Splyce.
Speaking of dive, here we go. They go in. Bop, Kobbe, left, right, center, flashing forward. There's a 2-man knock-up on the grand entrance, but will it be enough? Kobbe's going to fall. That's first blood to Amazing.
Very nicely played by VandeR to set up that play. Amazing comes in on the follow-through. And Splyce, even though they knew Amazing was there because they had the ward and the tri-brush, were still caught off guard because VandeR immediately pulled the trigger.
I really like this out of Schalke No Fear. Yesterday, we saw them execute a funnel comp, but do it in a very slow manner. They weren't taking a lot of risks. It seemed like they didn't even know necessarily how far ahead they were, but now they're making plays together early and often. This is the kind of thing we wanted to see out of Schalke all split.
It absolutely is, and all off the back of Amazing now, making that play in the bottom lane, teaming up with VandeR, Nukeduck as well. He's level 6 in this middle lane. That is absolutely nuts because Nisqy is still about halfway towards that level 6 point himself, and Nukeduck can walk up here and team up with Amazing.
All right, Odoamne is still sitting on level 5. This is going to be the big difference with that ultimate if he was looking to end the world there. That is actually, I've gotten confirmation from our stats team, the fastest time anyone has made it to level 6 since they've been tracking the stat.
Wow, and that includes funnel comps. Remember these guys that are running around the map.
Hey man, you got to share experience in a funnel
Exactly.
comp.
The weakness of the funnel comp is that when you're in mid lane, you've got a support next to you. He's trying to steal those stats. Now VandeR using the Hex Flash. They're looking for the flashless Odoamne up top side.
Might be able to do him. Looks like he could be in for some pinball. Flashing forward. There's the briefcase hit. Some Amazing is here as well. They've got the knockup. Xerxe coming in for a little bit of respite. Will he be able to find it? kaSing has his will. Odoamne walks out. Oh, his team saved his life, and Xerxe turns it all around, killing Vizicsacsi.
That was nuts.
That was clutch.
Odoamne lives just a sliver of HP. The teleport from kaSing, something we saw Mickey X do yesterday. And now so many supports, I think, around the world are learning that teleport is a really powerful tool. He gets up top lane, bails Odoamne out of a tough situation, and turns away with the kill.
Yeah, nicely done. Giving the assist over to Odoamne as well, who's had a little bit of a rough start. Well, excuse me, had a little bit of a rough minute because he was doing pretty well against the Mundo early, but now you've got level 6 versus level 5. Odo is actually going to have to take it back up. Now he's got access to that equalizer. But the game is very even, despite Schalke's gold lead. A lot of it is really resting in Nukeduck in mid lane.
Yeah, it's all on Nukeduck in the mid lane. Already up 25 CS, and you just have to keep your eyes on him. How many times is he going into his own jungle to take camps away from Amazing? Because while that does put Amazing, a little bit behind, you'd imagine, it's a Sejuani. So she's really just there for the utility of the ultimate. He can definitely scoop up a lot more of those resources. And I really like these moves out of Schalke, like we see right here, because their strength as a team is Amazing and VandeR roaming around the map and making plays together. But that is immediately shut down with this teleport from kaSing. Xerxe is also here to stop the counter gank in the top lane, just like we saw him do yesterday when he shut down Fnatic's attempts to lock up Odoamne, and he just keeps making it happen again and again. He knows exactly where the enemy jungler is going to be.
That was the closest thing, though, and the craziest part about it was that kaSing actually goes in with the grand entrance instead of doing the battle dance first, the thing that gives the shield. He goes in for the knockup, buys just enough time for Odo to walk away from that one, and that's the difference. So 1-1 to kills at 7.5 minutes. I feel like we're going to have a lot more explosive action as this game goes on.
And Nukeduck now has that warrior enchantment. The best stat you can possibly have on Aatrox is cooldown reduction. Very often in top lane, you'd see the build be Black Cleaver into Death's Dance, and they'll also run the Transcendence rune for that extra 10% CDR for a very early 40%, so you can get those Qs out as fast as possible. The warrior enchant, very cheap CDR option, and with Black Cleaver likely coming in next for him, that'll be a very important spike on this champion.
Yes, indeed. Now Nukeduck can go roaming once more. Joining up with Amazing to help get that Scuttle Vision secured. So we talked a lot about this Aatrox. We talked a lot about how Schalke and their mid lane has been a big win condition for them. But looking across the board, it seems like they have a team fight that come the mid game, come the late game, should be able to match what Schalke is, or what Splyce is bringing as well. Yes. Are they confident to just kind of sit here and let things stack up?
I think Schalke definitely have to be. They've got that 1,000 gold lead at the moment, and Nukeduck constantly controls mid lane. What they're going to be doing is using that control to make plays across the map. Right now, Nukeduck and Amazing are teaming up topside, but Xerxe knows what's going on. He snuck his way into the lane, and if Schalke were to step forward, it might have been a big mistake.
Chachi, he's stepping forward himself, bringing Agony on. Xerxe jumps out the brushes. That's a lot of damage. Equalizer thrown down in his path. Is he going to be able to heal it all up? Oh! Crucial Glacial Prison, but it's not going to be enough. Xerxe steps forward and launches just enough arrows into the back of Chachi to get the kill.
Beautifully done, time and time again for Xerxe, playing around Odoamne in the top lane. Splyce look completely different when Xerxe is the one stepping up. In losses, almost non-existent on the map. Half a kill or assist at 15 minutes when he's winning, and when Splyce is winning, 3.3 kills and assists at 15. A completely different Xerxe is the key and the difference maker between Splyce winning games and Splyce losing games.
And also, with Odoamne, the difference between him being able to make these plays early on and comboing up, there's a reason we call them the Roaring Romanian Duo. These guys look so good together when they're both making these big plays. Now, Nukeduck will get pulled back by the never-moving Nisqy. Still keeping up, but only one level behind. Nisqy still had a little bit of a rougher time in this one, but you were right. He was okay after the level 1.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay in the sense that he's not going to be dying. He played very respectfully in the laning phase, but he rarely ever has pushed priority in this lane. You can see he's already down 30 CS because of the way that Nukeduck has been able to farm some of those jungle camps, and that will continue to happen. Nisqy will be relatively quiet in this game, I feel like, until Splyce can maybe get some team fights of their own, where then he can have that larger impact.
Well, and the item spikes the stacking. He's got the Rod of Ages on. Now Odo's in trouble once again. Here comes Amazing up towards the top. Does not have an easy point of ingress. Chachi stacking this wave. Odo, he's going to have some help. Teleport's coming up. His Equalizer not off cooldown, but there's going to be one matching. And so double TP as well. Nisqy, oh, this could be trouble right now. Schalke brought way more friends to this party, but Kobbe's even in there as well. Amazing starts off, but finally kill onto Odoamne. And Schalke, Goon Squad indeed. Goodbye, Nisqy. Double kill for the Aatrox.
That damage out of Nukeduck is absolutely disgusting. So much work done by the Aatrox. But you can see Schalke's comp is very good at diving turrets. The sustain you get out of the Aatrox as well as the Mundo means they can tank that up for forever, pick up a couple of kills.
All right, so they take themselves tower number 1 as well as 3 quick kills. Splyce. It was a nice play to try and give some relief to Odoamne, react a little bit, but Schalke just had the plan on lockdown. Let's take a look at that again.
Yeah, you see, of course, 3 members of Splyce back in the base. The rest of Schalke is on the map. We're like, what can we do? We can dive onto this top lane. The Rumble, very little stats this early in the game to be able to survive it out. And even though multiple teleports come on in, the turret diving potential from Schalke is simply too strong with Alistar ultimate as well. It's crazy. And what is that damage from Nukeduck? That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and good juggling of the aggro too. Everyone from Schalke kind of ended a little bit low, but you take that long of a fight under tower and you still come out that far ahead. They now find themselves about 2,500 gold in the lead at 12 minutes into this game, and Schalke playing with much more confidence. This is a Schalke no fear that we have rarely seen.
And we're going to need to see them try to take those mid-game fights. I think in yesterday's game, they were very comfortable scaling up into the late game because they were the ones running the funnel strategy themselves. But now, their composition with the power in Aatrox, with items coming through, should definitely be looking for many more of these scrappy fights come the mid-game.
Yep. Just about everybody participating in all these fights. Nukeduck looking for the 1v1, pulls him back in with those chains. VandeR was even waiting in the wings to see if he could assist Nukeduck a little bit on this. And in the meantime, Amazing getting solo time on the Rift Herald as well. So Schalke not just getting the kills, starting to get these objectives stacking up. You can see them moving into the jungle, getting wards down to top it off. They're taking control of this game.
They absolutely are. And one of the niche things you get when you don't run a marksman in the bottom lane, when you have someone like the Vladimir, is you have effectively 3 different champions that can go into side lanes and work very well by themselves. And what that means is that you can have Upset go into a side lane. VandeR doesn't have to babysit him. All of a sudden, VandeR is unlocked to roam around the map and make those plays that he's been going for so consistently in this game. And it's not going to end anytime soon. He's always going to be on the offensive, seeing what's going to be coming next.
What is coming next right now is the Rift Herald. as it charges headfirst into the tower, making that a clean 2 for Schalke 04. VandeR finds Odoamne. Nukeduck is going to get that umbral dash over the wall, and it's a world ender, and it's the end of Odoamne's world. You're on one ain't fair, man.
Yeah, it's just the dives in the bottom lane. This guy is stuck out by himself. It's the only outer turret left. So of course Odoamne is going to want to go up and get those minions that crash on into it. But VandeR was inside that side of the jungle. There's just no vision really protecting Odoamne in his side lane, even though Splyce had done a very good job of playing around him early on. That seems to have gone out the window now that Schalke have opened up the map.
Yeah, nowhere is safe right now. Now, for Splyce, let's look at what's going right for these guys, because it is easy to kind of lose track of that when you see Schalke stacking these good plays together. Obviously, quite a lot's going wrong. But they still have Xerxe, has these 2 critical kills. This is a guy we've been talking about. His early performance has been so critical to Splyce's game. In the later stages, that can translate to quite a lot more damage. The Xayah is starting to stack up as well. The Stormrazor, of course, being completed, and Nisqy getting stacks on his Rod of Ages. So they're ramping up. Question is, how are they going to put all those pieces together for a successful fight?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. It feels like the engage really has to fall onto kaSing and Odoamne. The equalizer laying that down on top of multiple charmed up targets is sort of the dream case scenario for Splyce, but it does become a little bit difficult from there because they don't have a lot of tools to peel their backline. Realistically, Kobbe and Xerxe are going to be dishing out a ton of damage to Schalke's front line, but they don't really have that great a front line themselves, which means it's very easy for the divers of Schalke to get on top of them and shut them down.
Yeah, that's tense. And you mentioned it being all about the the long kind of drawn-out engages, or at least in Schalke's case, trying to find those picks. I wonder though, like is there a way for them to maybe melt through some of the self-healing? Like, what are they going to be doing as opposed to just trying to get the burst out? We're looking at some Executioner's Callings and stuff. Excuse me. Mortal Remind.
Mortal Remind, I mean, Executioner's Calling is going to do the same exact thing, and that very much should be coming through soon for these players. I think Xerxe has the right idea, going for the Blood Razor against 5 targets that are going to be building a whole lot of HP, and definitely going to need Umbrella Nomicon perhaps for Nisqy, and an Executioner's on top of that.
Big shopping list. Gotcha. So it's going to be a little while, but Kobbe and kaSing do have a plan to get themselves a kill. 2 birds in a brush.
It's not going to happen.
Nope. Wait.
I don't think so. Because Amazin's right here. This is spooky. They can go for the all-in again, but Schalke, with the control they have over the map, it's a very quick rotation that they can make to stop him. And with Aatrox, it's very hard to lock him down.
They got one. Let's see if they're able to get enough damage as soon as Amazing leaves. But there's the World Ender. He is rooted in place for just a moment, resurrecting. Waiting to go over that wall in just a second. He does dash it, but he's going to get shut down. kaSing picks the kill.
Okay, so Amazing backed away. That's exactly when Splyce went in. Nicely done from them. Nukeduck didn't want to burn his flash. He will hold on to that for another day. And Splyce, if they can stall out a little bit longer, try to mitigate their losses. They're down 5,000 gold at the moment. But they do have a marksman. They do have 2 marksmen. That's a lot of scaling on their side. They just can't get in too much of a hole now.
Yeah. We'll have some mid-game power too. Odoamne had been talking about item power spikes when the Enters Torments come in. Now the Mountain Drake's pretty important, but it doesn't look like Splyce are in a position to try and contest this one, so they are going to leave it be easy pickup for Schalke 04, and that lead will continue to grow. And a lot of that gold though is in the tower difference. Splyce haven't been able to secure a single one on the map just yet, not for lack of trying, but just because Schalke have been much more Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, if you're looking at individual members on different sides, about 1,300 in Vizicsacsi and his lead over Odoamne. Mid lane as well is a pretty sizable clip, almost 1,500 between Nukeduck and Nisqy. And Nukeduck has put his money into the right places, does have that Black Cleaver completed, which means that he's going to be topping off with about 30% CDR at the moment. And that's pretty good if you're him. Death Dance will be the next one, and with that 40%, he's gonna have all the sustain in the world to be an absolute monster in these fights.
Yeah, that's just items. He's consistently been at least 1 level ahead of everybody on the Splyce side. He's 3 levels ahead of some of the members, even 4 if you count kaSing. So Nukeduck is definitely a terror at this point, raid boss if you will. The rest of Schalke is nothing to sneeze at. They're mostly focusing on trying to push the wave in the mid lane. But Splyce, where can they really look to play through right now? Like, they need to find a tower somewhere, but it seems like everything's well enough defended.
Right. Again, all the playmaking from Splyce has to come through kaSing, and now that he doesn't have his flash, it's a little bit more difficult. But you can see, again, he's trying to hover around Kobbe, maybe look for another move like they did onto Nukeduck a moment before, because there's really no other great way for Splyce to start off any of these engagements.
All right. Schalke, they can find pretty much whatever they please, but they don't need to push too far in. This is the more conservative Schalke that we've seen before, but they already have built up this big lead. We're not even 20 minutes into this game yet, and they can't afford to just wait it out and bait these fights. VandeR amazing in the brush. Nukeduck sitting apparently out in the open. Nothing to really push, but Splyce won't pull the trigger just yet.
And it might look like Schalke have just slowed down completely and aren't looking to make any plays themselves, and that could be a point of criticism. What they're really waiting for, actually.
That was an amazing ult.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that was ambitious out of them to try and lock down kaSing, but really, it's Baron in a minute. They have so much control over this top side of the jungle that they can and will kill any Splyce members that enter. Unfortunately, now they don't have a Sejuani ult, which will make that a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I do think Splyce, if they want to try and contest an early Baron attempt, would be in some trouble if they didn't bring Odoamne to the party, much less Xerxe as well. But he's sitting in the bottom dealing with Vizicsacsi. We've seen what happens when a Mundo doesn't get sufficiently shut down. And, well, he's got a level advantage on Odo. He's got his Spear of Visage. This guy's not going to die anytime soon.
Luckily, Splyce have a lot of different sources of damage to try and shut him down, but it does become an issue once he has that Sunfire Cape on top of the magic resistance as well, and he can just tank up all of these shots coming through from Splyce. That becomes very, very spooky when he's running into your face and you don't have anyone to protect you.
Very true. And that's the issue. Splyce, you mentioned frontline, just not necessarily all that there for them. They need to get into the backline and melt through everyone else. But Chachi is just going to be able to run amok through them at the time being. So this gold lead still sitting at about 5,000, just shy. Splyce looking to sniff forward to see if they can get a little bit of vision on this Baron, not let Schalke start it in the dark. Still very early into the game, of course, but with the gold lead that Schalke have, they could bait this one.
Yeah, it's important right now, the vision that kaSing is putting down around this Baron area to try and make sure Schalke couldn't sneak that away from underneath Splyce's nose. But getting a little bit worried because Splyce still don't have any form of Executioner's Culling or Mortal Reminder, anything like that to cut down the healing on the side of Schalke. And they have 3 champions that absolutely love it. Mundo, Aatrox, and the Vladimir definitely need to be shut down with some grievous wounds.
Let's see if they can get a quick execution of themselves, but as soon as kaSing goes in, Nukeduck starts flying around that map, and neither Kobbe or kaSing want any part of that. VandeR also kind of moving forward as well. So Splyce are still, they're trying to find these picks, but they just don't have the damage to really pull it off right now. And it kind of feels like they're living a little more optimistically than they should.
Yeah, we've only seen 8 kills this game. You know what would be fun, Pyra?
More kills?
More kills, but what if Aatrox had an ultimate that just made everyone come in and party and fight? Well, that might just happen because Schalke have started up this Baron, although Nisqy scouts it out. Division of Empire.
Yeah, Schalke are going to peel off this one. Again, this is the conservative play. This is the smart play. Schalke are trying not to lose their lead, but is this giving Splyce the time they need to eventually match them in the later stages of the game? If they don't face check, that is.
I mean, yes and no. I think both teams are sort of comfortable playing it very slow right now, but I want blood. What I was going to say is I want the Carnage Zone. Me and Riot Jag, actually the lead designer on Aatrox, got to catch up before the show, and there's a fun interview you can check out over on youtube.com/LOL Esports, where we talk all about a ton of those crazy ultimates that almost made it into the game. And their names. We got gold all on my chains for the W. There's so many crazy things that almost made it, and there's also clips from some of those playtests that I was actually in, Pyra.
Yeah, you guys should definitely check that one out. And also bonus points if you actually spot Ender in the chat window. He's not the easiest one to find.
Forget what I'm saying. I think I'm saying something ridiculous, talking about how a skin looks very pretty or something.
When are you never doing that?
All the time.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a positive. Trust me.
That's good.
Yeah. So now, Baron isn't the only objective that's going to be spawning on the map, by the way. We've got an Infernal Dragon coming up in about 30 seconds. And you know Schalke would love to get their hands on it. They've got the map control to do it as well. So the question is, does Splyce feel like they can maybe make their stand there, or are they just going to slowly seed these objectives over?
I mean, if you look at the items coming through, Schalke all have their second completed. Splyce, their team fight is very difficult to actually execute. That is one of the things that happens when you don't run, multiple tanks in your composition. In the case of Splyce, no real true tank on their side. kaSing is going to be the one trying to set up these fights, but if he ever makes a mistake and gets caught out, that's going to be very, very detrimental to anything that Splyce is trying to accomplish.
What they're trying to accomplish now is just make sure that the vision is secured, but this opens the window for Vizicsacsi and Amazing to two-man the Infernal Drake. It's picked up in addition to the Mountain. That's going to allow them to have that additional AD and AP, scaling further and further into the later stages of the game.
Yeah, so for Splyce, what can they actually do right now to change something up? And I think that's get control over your topside jungle. They have a lot of good vision now. They could honestly set up in one of these brushes because we know that Amazing has constantly been walking in. Schalke want deep vision for themselves, but it becomes very difficult to do that unless they have mid lane priority. So they're going to have to constantly be battling for that, battling for the shoving wave, and then they can try and move in some of their own control wards and perhaps set up a pick. But we've already mentioned it is so hard to single out any one of the members on Schalke's side.
Singling out, that's kind of the key thing here, because they have been kind of tag teaming a little bit. Like, you roam in like 1 or 2, but then you always have somebody that's within enough range to do it. And this does seem to be a strength that Schalke have developed over the time they had away from Rift Rivals. While Splyce eventually became the heroes of EU by taking down Team Liquid last week, Schalke were kind of hard at work, and we thought, okay, well, you know, they picked up the funnel comp. These guys have definitely worked on and added some new tools to their repertoire, but this is a whole nother story too. Clearly the Aatrox is going to be on people's minds, but running it in the mid lane, watching the other regions that have picked it up, and running this type of composition is also something new for them.
Right, and what I think a lot of people will see this and go, Splyce, you know, assuming, you know, this game goes poorly, continues to go poorly. They left open the Aatrox. That was the issue for them in this game. But I think that takes credit away from Schalke where it is due, because Nukeduck has looked very good on this champion. Amazing and VandeR playing around the top side of the map as well have looked very, very good for Schalke. That's a big takeaway for a team that's fighting right now to break free of the middle of the pack spot that they find themselves in.
Yeah, both teams at that 3-4 mark, trying to end the week with a 2-0. Getting into the mid, let's see, we got themselves 2 members on the Baron. It's starting. It's very slow take, but there isn't any vision on this. Splyce don't necessarily know this is happening. They see the Aatrox up towards the top. They see 2 in the middle. So while this is a very slow Baron take, it's a very safe one because there's no reaction out of Splyce.
I mean, Splyce have vision of Empire. They have 2 blue orbs up, but it's down to 4K. This is too late.
Yeah, absolutely. They finally popped this one on. They'd have to have a miracle of a steal. Now Xerxe wants to go over the wall. It's not going to happen, way too late. And now the fight is going to be on. Lamdra's bite is not going to buy you enough time. And there are a lot of Schalke members nuking down the rest of Splyce. That's a shutdown for Upset on his opposite number. And here we go, popping up with the Bloodwell in the World Ender form, looking for Kobbe, the double kill. Odoamne falling down as well. And Nukeduck might have fallen, but Splyce got nuke-dunked.
Yeah, welcome to the Aatrox bounce house right there. Knocks up all the time. And Schalke with the Baron, they're going to be looking for an inhibitor, Pyra.
Yeah, there's no one here to stop him right now, so that tower is going to fall. Baron buff is on, 4 members strong. And they can just march these minions right into the base for the next minute or so, next 15 seconds before any Splyce members can respond. That's easy inhibitor take.
It looked slow. A lot of Schalke fans were probably a little bit nervous that that lead hadn't started to take off for Schalke, but they baited Baron, they started up, pulled off every single time Splyce put down vision onto it. And then the one time they're a little bit too late, that's when they lock it down and win the big fight.
Very well calculated, very well planned, and most importantly, well executed for Schalke No Fear.
Yep, eyes on VandeR right here to stop Xerxe from getting into the pit. Big knock-up coming through, and after that, Splyce, again, they're caught in this tight choke point. They want to be, you know, using their range to stay away from the divers on the side of Schalke, but you can't stay away from an Aatrox. Even when he dives, he's still trying to chase after you, and without a front line to protect them, the carries on the side of Splyce just go down.
So even though they got the Aatrox at the end, didn't really matter. A little too little, a little too late. And now Schalke fully in the driver's seat. 9,000 gold, the lead. 27.5 minutes. There is a ray of sunshine for Splyce, and it's that we finally get to see our Executioner's calling. That's picked up by Kobbe. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to cut down the healing.
Hey, it finally happened. That's what we needed to see, but Xing cannot get caught out.
Well, that's quickness. Not quick enough. He does make his escape, though. That's crucial.
Drops the cowbell on him as VandeR. He's feeling good about this game, and I think Splyce definitely should be feeling good. They're up 9,000 gold at the moment. There's no engage left for kaSing. He doesn't have flash, he doesn't have the quickness, so this siege should be relatively easy for Schalke.
This is the best Schalke have looked since re-entering the LCS. I mean, let's not forget that the Spring Split was, by all means, a disaster for this team. The Summer Split, the start looked to maybe repeat that trend, but if they win this game here today, they find themselves 4-4 at the end of week 4. This is fantastic, and the way that they're executing against a team like Splyce that's been on the up and up, even more impressive.
Yeah, especially trying to just shut down the momentum from Splyce, one of their direct competitors fighting for that same spot in the standings. The one difficulty Schalke have with these turrets is that they don't have any range, but they're so strong, they're just walking up and taking the turrets down anyways.
Yeah, Vizicsacsi pretty easy for him to do now. The Rumble ultimate gets thrown down. Vizicsacsi's going to have to walk right over it. He's still got plenty of healing. That tower will stand for 1 or 2 more hits, but meanwhile, VandeR and Amazing in the mid. Inhib has already fallen down, and this one, it looks like another will be as well. Splyce bleeding out objectives at the moment. These guys did not manage to find a tower this game. We haven't really been talking about it, Ender, but this is 4 kills shy of a perfect game for Schalke.
Schalke and the Dragon, you have to give Splyce some credit there, but Schalke are just running through the base at the moment. The third inhibitor is going to go down easily, and Splyce don't have any response.
They have to find a kill. Nukeduck nearly going to fall, but no, there's the Bloodwell. And it looks like Splyce bet it all to try and end it right here, right now. And it looks like it's not going to go their favor. Hemoplague goes down, the double kill for Upset. And it is upsetting for Splyce, but for Schalke 04 fans, this is redemption. They will close out the week 2-0. A phenomenal play. First the funnel, then the Aatrox. Well, it's certainly the week of the Duck, and it's the week of Schalke.
And the Nexus to boot right there. All off the back of Nukeduck. It really did feel like yesterday's match, he was the one getting funneled. Today, he still has the smite, but he's playing a different style, using that Aatrox to absolute perfection. And tells everyone out there, you don't want to leave that champion up. He seems to be pretty strong at the moment.
100% win rate in the LCS. So far, so good. And just a solid performance. You can't take anything away from Schalke this time. Was it as fast as some people would have liked? No, but that doesn't matter. They didn't leave any openings hardly for Splyce to counterattack.
But that's the thing. I didn't even need them to play fast because the way they controlled the map was so good in my eyes. Owning the vision in that top quadrant of the jungle around that Baron buff meant that eventually the vision from Splyce was going to crack. They would be able to steal away that Baron and then force the fights they'd been wanting that Splyce just hadn't take for a long, long time.
Yeah, they couldn't even take any of the towers at the end of the day. It was just too slow. They were, I want to say Splyce was starved, but realistically, the food was there in front of them. They just got smacked every time they got close to it.
Yeah, and it was a good start to the game, specifically out of Xerxe, playing around Odoamne in the top side, but where Splyce brought one member to try and help out their top laner, Schalke were like, we can bring 2, we can maybe bring 3 more, and just dive over and over relentlessly for their top laner Vizicsacsi.
Now, we talk a lot about what the Aatrox was doing, but I do want to give some credit here to Upset, because on this Vladimir, he held it out pretty even in the laning phase, but once we entered that mid and the late stages of the game, he came up very crucial, especially in those fights where Nukeduck ended up falling, and he actually out-damaged the Aatrox in that game.
Very impressive stuff out of him. 5-0-4 on the KD. I think also his laning partner, VandeR, although they weren't really partners in this game.
That was a hex-flashing cow all over the map.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, though, because VandeR got to roam around it and really set up plays for the team. Honestly, it's hard to find fault with really much of what happened on the Schalke side. Like, I mean, early game, the Mundo got a little bit bullied, as you do. Amazing maybe wasn't as fast as the Kindred, but he was on a Sejuani. I mean, it's nitpicking at this point because Schalke, they're 2-0. They got the win.
Yeah, I mean, the criticisms of Schalke in the past so far this split have been not as proactive as we wanted to see out of them in the early game, and that just changes when you have Amazing and VandeR working together as well as they did in this match. It gets them the win so early on. They were able to build up that huge advantage.
And just keep it rolling. It was a lot to like, and they play a style that seems controlled at times, that they were able to then kind of parlay into just 1 or 2 quick baits. That's all they needed to actually get the game win.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the vision control. It was so methodical, and a lot of credit to the coaching staff for helping them set up those plays as well, because that is a coordinated effort. That's not just one player putting down a bunch of wards or sitting in the top side of the map. No, it's the whole team working together to set up the play that eventually led to the Baron and that huge team fight victory.
Taking a lot of good time in the time off from Ref for Alistar to really develop some new strategies. Now, we have selected Nukeduck, Amazing, and Upset as your candidates for the player of the game, so go ahead and hit us up with your favorite on the Twitter poll at LOL Esports. And I know I say this a lot, but that's a hard call.
It's such a hard call, Pyra. I'm not going to bait anyone into voting for anyone that they don't want to.
We won't bait anybody. We're just go ahead and send it off to Sjokz and Deficio. Let's talk about that game some more.
Thank you very much. Maybe for once we should stop saying, I'm not going to bait anyone by saying a name.
I'm not baiting anyone either.
No, we're definitely not baiting anyone. Well, what we are going to do is break down exactly where Splyce dropped the ball and where Schalke completely drove this game home. Now, we stopped and looked after the pick and ban and looked at the win conditions for both teams. Now, let's start with what Schalke 04 drafted. And Deficio, you told me immediately, the most important thing is these solo laners cannot fall behind.
Yeah, so if we look at some of the big win conditions, that is definitely the first one I look at, because the whole goal for this Schalke draft is that Aatrox, of course, when he's left open, he becomes an absolute monster. And also, when you have the Mundo in top lane, he can take over a game. And what will happen is these guys will group as 5 eventually, and what I call death ball is where you just, as a 5-man massive group, you run at the enemy team, and there's nothing they can do to stop you because you have 5 massive bruisers. No one is going to die, and you will eventually run over the enemy team.
Can you explain how the 1-3-1 exactly worked, and at what point is it good for them to go into the death ball composition?
So you want to, for the first like 20-25 minutes of the game, play on all 3 lanes when you have a Mundo in one lane who will beat the Rumble, and you have an Aatrox in the other lane that will beat his counterpart. And that's why you can play on the entire map. And that you do that simply to utilize farm and experience, because you have to get these bruisers far ahead of the enemy team. And then after the 20-25 minute mark, you start playing around things like Baron, and you group, and you just run the enemy team.
And as said, the solo laners cannot fall behind in this scenario, because otherwise you won't be able to set that up, which is a huge win condition for Schalke, and they did pretty well. And when we're going to look at the win conditions for Splyce in just a second, it's really not good for them that this Aatrox got off to such a great start.
That is definitely a big problem, because if we show the Splyce composition, we get to see what they're actually drafting in this game, where they give this key pick to Nukeduck.
First up, why in the hell did they give up that?
Yeah, I definitely want to say that everyone who predicted Splyce to win, that should not go against them when Aatrox was left open. That should just nullify this one game in terms of predictions. Their goal with this draft was when they gave Aatrox, they wanted to get some key picks in return. So the Swain came in early. They wanted to grab Rakan for kaSing. So they wanted to trade a power pick for 2 power picks in their mind. That's why they give over Aatrox. But if you look at their first win condition, stop Aatrox.
Unfortunately for them, that is what it then all boils down to.
It has to be. Second part, and that's why I think they wanted the Rakan, and they paired it up with Rumble ulti and Swain, is long-range forms of engage to start fights. It makes it hard for the enemy team when you're moving around the map, because instantly you get picked up left and right. But let's go into the first replay. Remember, that win condition for Splyce was to stop Aatrox. Well, this is what happens with Smite Aatrox. He can take Raptor Camp level 1. That gives him level 2 because he's starting with the jungle item. And he will literally just almost kill you.
Almost kill
immediately. So this is the worst start possible in the stop Aatrox win condition for them. It gets even worse, because Nukeduck ends up also getting kills for himself.
And getting 100 CS at 9 minutes and hitting level 6, one of the fastest times I think maybe ever we've seen in the EU LCS at 4 minutes and 44, I think. So super fast, and he was just unchained, and there's only that much you can do. And I asked you, okay, so what should they have done? You know, what should he have done versus Aatrox when you see that he just goes to Raptors, he comes back, chilling Smite, he almost kills Nisqy on the spot. You can't just babysit him forever, or do you have to then from the start?
I think at that point, actually camping mid lane is so difficult because the lane is fairly short. They tried to go top lane instead, and we had the whole don't let your solo laners fall behind for Schalke as a key part.
Yeah.
Vizicsacsi did die twice, but he won on CS, so he actually got all the gold he needed. And after the Aatrox got fed just from early leveling, the top lane dive happened. And that's where Vizicsacsi got back into the game. That's where Nukeduck got far ahead in the game. And now these solo laners are not behind. And then this happens later. This is the death ball comp.
Yeah.
This is when you are 5-man, massive bruisers. Notice how tanky they are. No one will die, so eventually they will kill your carries because they have so much time in fights. And even when you do kill someone, it's a damn Aatrox who gets back to life, and then he can kill people again. So this is the classic. We have done our job as a 1-3-1, farming all the lanes. Our bruisers are now fit, and they run at the enemy team.
In a way, the Lamb's Respite is even working in their favor, because they want to
that's
death
right.
ball and throw all the combos up, and they're alive longer, so it's great.
It's just a super cool draft from Schalke. But man, a coach has the easiest job in this matter, if Aatrox is left open, he doesn't even need to say anything.
No.
The team will literally just instant lock Aatrox before he says a word.
That he will, and that is what you get when that happens. Schalke no fear, though, with this win and now beating Splyce, have their first 2-0 week in 2018. You said before this week, this is the defining week for Schalke. If they can't win their games here, we are in troubled waters. And they did it. They are back there.
They are 100% back. The hype can finally start again of actually looking at Schalke as a playoff team, because next week they have H2K and Unicorns of Love. That is an easy schedule for them. It's 2 of the teams down the bottom. I am looking at Schalke potentially going 4-0 from week 4 and week 5, and then you're in a great spot.
And we go from Day of the Duck to double Day of the Duck.
Year or weekend of the Nukeduck for now. It will soon be the year of Nukeduck.
He is player of the game again, 62% of the votes, contributing to Schalke's first 2-0 in 2018.
Perfect.
And even when he died in this late game team fights, a guy you were talking about earlier in the day, upset on Vladimir, had a great showing. It was all working out for them. And this is the kind of momentum swing that you have to build on if you're Schalke.
I mean, it's the best kind of week you can possibly have. Again, as we highlighted before, the schedule is fairly easy for next week. If you get your wins, you start looking at the top teams all of a sudden, and you're no longer fighting to be like number 7 or maybe number 6. You start actually fighting to be number 3 or maybe even higher in the standing. So this could be the turning point for Schalke. They've looked for all year long, did not make playoffs in Spring Split, have to make playoffs here if they want to go to Worlds.
Incredibly impressive. They did what they had to do, Schalke. And after the break, we'll hear about that victory more from Vizicsacsi. And after that, G2 will look to bounce back against the struggling Giants. I love it. Berg's back in Croatia for tomorrow. We'll see you back here in 3.5.
Kobbe left, right, center, flashing forward. There's a 2-man knock-up on the grand entrance, but will it be enough? Kobbe's going to fall. That's first blood to Amazing. That's a lot of damage. Equalizer thrown down in his path. Is he going to be able to heal it all up? Oh! Crucial Glacial Prison, but it's not going to be enough. Schalke brought way more friends to this party, but Kobbe's even in there as well. Amazing starts off, but finally kill onto Odoamne. And Schalke, Goon Squad indeed. Goodbye, Nisqy of Splyce. That's a shutdown for Upset on his opposite number. And here we go, popping up with the Bloodwell in the World Ender form. Looking for Kobbe, the double kill. Odoamne falling down as well. A phenomenal play. First the funnel, then the Aatrox. Well, it's certainly the week of the Duck, and it's the week of Schalke.